everybody, and welcome back to Out of Body. My name is Sabrina, and today I'm going to be talking about part 3 of the paranormal investigation that I did at my workplace. Which, if you haven't seen part 1 or 2, I would suggest going watching those just so you're not lost when I talk about what happened in part 3. Again, I'm going to say a disclaimer here that what I'm going to talk about is how this person died, and if that, hearing about how a person dies or hearing about abuse or anything like that is a trigger for you, go ahead and click out of this video. I won't be offended. I don't want to trigger anything for anyone. I don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable. So, yeah, I'm just going to put that out there. But otherwise, if you would like to hear more about this story, then keep watching. If you watched the previous 2 videos, especially the one right before this one, part 2, at the end of it, I had confirmed that the spirit actually wants to cross over. And so I told them, okay, when I come back, I'm going to come back another day, and I'm going to try to help you do that as best I can. So when I came back, I opened up the session, and I said, you mentioned before that you wanted to cross over, and I'm here to help you with that, help you to deal with anything that happened to you or whatever you need to help you cross over. So the first word that comes up after I say that is torture. So at that point I was like, okay, it's about to get real. Like, not trying to be funny, but like, it's about to get real. Like, they're about to tell me what happened, and maybe why they linger here, because it was such a tragic death. So torture comes up, and I say, okay, torture. So you were tortured before you died. And then the next word that comes up is walk. So at that point, because of at the very beginning when they said something about horses and Indians, I thought, is it possible that this person was actually walking during the Trail of Tears or something, and they died during that horrible, horrible thing. The next word that comes up is heinous, like a heinous crime. And so I thought, okay, that could be the Trail of Tears. It could be something else. Either way, this person, obviously was tortured, maybe had to walk somewhere, or maybe was forced to go somewhere with some people, and then some heinous crime happened to them. And so at that point I knew, okay, this is definitely getting a little bit, I don't want to say dark, but just, it's getting a little bit real. Okay, so what happened next was the word clear came up, and that came up after I said, that I was clarifying that, you do want me to help you cross over, and that I'm here to listen to anything you have to say about how you died. And then clear came up, so it was like, I felt like, the person saying like, yes, that's clear, that's correct. So then after that, I asked more about who killed them. I said, do you know who killed you? So at that point I hadn't asked anything else, and I looked at my screen and the word Robert came up, the name Robert. So I thought, okay, I communicated with the person and said, okay, is it someone by the name of Robert that maybe killed you? Was that your murderer's name? And then the word probably came up. So I thought, okay, they're saying, they're maybe not sure, the name of the person that killed them, but they said probably, so maybe this person was struck from behind, or, who knows? Maybe they were knocked out and then something happened. I don't really know. And then the word hours came up, like O-U-R-S. And at first I thought, okay, what does that mean? Like hours, like what's hours? But then I thought, wait a minute, torture, heinous. And the person, they named the person that they thought tortured them or killed them. And then hours. And I thought, wait a minute, I wonder if they mean hours as in H-O-U-R-S, like they were tortured for hours. And that kind of shook me. I was like, oh my goodness. It just kind of hit me that was probably what it was. And I tried to confirm it with the person. And then I kind of got silence for a while. I didn't really get anything for a few minutes. But then after that, the word ship comes up. And I know that where I work, it's right next to a big river, Mississippi River. So I thought, okay, was it a person from a ship, or did they take you on a ship, or was there a ship involved, or was that just a random word? And then the word food came up, and then the word man. So I'm not sure what ship and food might have been referring to, unless maybe they were trying to tell me about the man that killed them, that maybe he was a food shipper, or something, like maybe that's something like he did for a living, I don't know. But then man came up, so I was like, okay, so a man did kill you. And then I tried to ask again, like, do you remember your last name, maybe, if you don't remember your first name? And then the word Brian came up, so I don't know if Brian was the person's last name, I'm not sure. Okay, and then after Brian, the word helpless came up, and so I was trying to ask them, more about what went on, how did you die, and then helpless came up, and so I thought helpless, okay. That's again what kind of made me think, is this the spirit of someone who is a child, someone who is young? And I really do believe that's what it was. And also the next word that came up was uncle. So I thought, okay, the man that killed you, was that your uncle? And then the word tragic came up, and I thought, okay, so was that what happened? This tragedy, how you died, someone that in your family that killed you? So I asked all of that, and as you can see, the bars are going really, really high and really, really red. And then the next word that comes up is right. Because I asked a question, I said, is that, your uncle killed you? Is that correct? And it was a tragic thing. And then the word right came up. I was like, oh my goodness, like this is horrible. And it sounds like it might have been a child, during a wartime or something, that was killed by their uncle, of all things. So at this point, I feel like what happened next, and this is where, it might get a little bit triggering for some people. I feel like the person was either telling me, almost like a play-by-play of what happened, or showing me, or that they were actually going through it again. That's kind of what I think, because, these words are coming through. It's almost like whatever happened was happening again, like that person was reliving it. And so some of the things that were said during the altercation or whatever came up, I feel like. And yeah, it gets a little bit dark, I will say. So anyway, the next thing that comes up is don't lie. And I thought, okay, what does that mean? What are you trying to tell me? And then the name Harry came up, and I thought, okay, is that your name? Or is that someone else's name? And then the word common came up, and I thought, okay, common, Harry. Is that, at the moment I kind of thought, okay, is Harry someone who was in common with you? Like, in other words, was that like family? Was there another person involved? Because earlier the person said Robert, and now they're saying Harry. So I'm like, okay, is there more than one person involved in this? And then what happens next is a little scary. And now in hindsight, when I look at that word common, I think, could that have possibly been, if this situation, this tragic thing that happened, is really being relived by this person, and I'm kind of getting, for lack of a better word, that like the play-by-plays of what happened, could it have been someone named Harry telling this person, come on, like, come with me, come on? I say that because of what happens next. Maybe that'll make more sense to you once I get to that point. But like I said, it gets a little bit into kind of abuse. I think this person was abused by a couple of family members, and then they were killed, is basically what I think happened. So let's just get into what happened next. So the next word that comes up is the word moan. So, obviously that's kind of a little bit scary, like someone's suffering, like someone's moaning, like in pain. And then the next word that comes up, and this is the one that shook me more than anything, and I'm almost getting emotional even thinking about it, because it's just so terrible. But there's two words that come up, and I'm just going to put them up on the screen here. I don't even think I'm even going to say it, because it's just so horrible. So I'm going to put it up here so you can see what that says. So at that point, I basically knew that this person, whoever this was, this child, most likely, had been abused by two people. Two men, I assume. Their father, as you can see, and their uncle. So that's what I believe. That's what I feel I got out of this, especially with what kind of happens after this. But yeah, this is where it gets pretty real, pretty just horrible, honestly. And you can understand someone after going through something like that and dying in that kind of a tragic event. It's understandable that they would linger because, after something like that, how do you move on? I mean, I like to think that other people that have had that happen, people that have been murdered or raped and murdered and abused and things like that, and then killed right after, that they have a way to move on. But I think maybe a lot of times, especially if it's a child like this, that they can tend to linger, and not know what to do. Especially, I don't know how old this person was, but I assume pretty young. I want to say, I don't necessarily want to put a number on it because I don't know. I kept trying to ask his or her age. I believe it was her age, but she didn't tell me. But I want to say 12 or under, which is disgusting. It's terrible. But anyway, I'm going to keep going on this. I'm not going to linger on this, but that, as you can see, is most likely what happened. I feel like this person is reliving it, and I'm kind of hearing or getting the messages of what's going on. As far as the way I felt at that moment, I did feel like very intense feelings, and I felt like I was witnessing something happening. I couldn't see anything, of course. I don't really get visions when this happens, but my clairaudience, I was receiving similar messages to what was coming up. I just felt like there was chaos, there was tension, there was something happening. During all of this, when this was happening, I was trying to communicate with the person and say, like, it's okay, it's not happening anymore. I know it happened to you in the past. It's okay, you're safe now. Trying to console the person because it felt like they were really going through it again, and it really saddened me. So I wanted to comfort them. So then after the previous phrase, this next word comes up on the screen, and then the word similar comes up. So I'm not sure what that meant. I don't know if, when I was saying like, oh my gosh, you were abused and all this stuff happened to you, and then they said yes, similar, yes, that's what happened, similar to that. And then after that, the next word that comes up is over. So I think that was a person saying like, this is what happened, then it was over. So after that, I have to kind of take a breather for a minute, at that point, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I know what happened to this person, this young person. And the next thing that comes up, and I'm still kind of feeling intensity at this point, like energy, intensity. And then the words so afraid come up. And at that point, I'm like almost driven to tears. I'm like, okay, you're safe now. Like, don't be afraid. You're all right. It's not happening anymore. Those people aren't around anymore. You're safe now. I just felt so sad for this person, because I felt like they're still going through it. They've probably been going through it over and over again. God knows how long, I mean, a lot of times that's what I've heard, that when spirits go through something, when someone dies very, very tragically and then they linger here, a lot of times they will relive what happened over and over and over. I can't think of a worse hell than that, honestly, to go through something so tragic that it kills you, and then when you die, you go through it again, over and over and over again. Like, really? I just can't even imagine. So then, they said it was over, but then the word came up, so afraid. And then again, this other word comes up, which I'm going to put it over here. So I don't know if they were reliving it a second time in my presence. I'm not sure, but they said that again. Okay, so the next word that comes up is sing. And at that point, I felt the intensity lift a little bit, and so I thought, sing, okay? Are you singing? Are you hearing singing? Are you hearing angels maybe? And I thought, could this be possibly the person, now that they've relived it, that they've told their story to someone, that now they're able to move on? Is that what's happening now? After that, a name comes on the screen, Nicole. And I thought, is that your name? Is someone else's name? Like, who is Nicole? And then the word below comes up, and I thought, okay, are you being carried somewhere? Are you being taken somewhere? Is someone coming from below? Like, what's going on? And then the word carry came up, and I thought, okay, so someone, did someone come and carry you away? Are you being, taken on now? Are you moving on now? And then the word my daughter came up. Now this is what confuses me. So I'm not sure. I feel like this person, when they were on Earth, that they died as a child. But then my daughter came up. So I wasn't sure if at that point I was still speaking to the girl, the little girl, or if I was speaking to her mother. Maybe her mother, what I think is that her mother came and found her and took her to move on. That's really what I think, which, that's just, hits me right here. Like, it's really, oh my goodness, just crazy, amazing that would happen. It also could be that maybe this person was older and that their daughter came and brought them to move on. I don't know, but the way I felt at this point when I was communicating with whoever I was communicating with, I thought I was speaking to someone else. And I kind of asked, I was like, am I speaking to someone else? Because it said my daughter. I was like, are you her mother? Am I speaking to you? And then the word listen came up. And so I tried to listen. I tried to be quiet at that point. And then the word silent came up. So I tried to stay quiet. I tried to listen. I thought, okay, maybe this new person that's come through wants to communicate with me solely through my abilities and not through the phone. So I listened, and I couldn't really tell anything. I mean, the energy felt a lot better. It felt lifted. It felt happy. Things felt better. I felt like, there was, more beings present, good beings that were maybe helping this girl. And then the word inside came up. So I thought, okay, she's wanting me to use my internal inside abilities to listen. So I tried to do that. But again, being at work, it was kind of hard to focus. Okay, so this is about where it ends. The next couple words that come up are trade, which, I'm not sure exactly what that meant, but I think it could have meant that, this little girl had kind of attached herself to me for the time being, and I was helping her, and her mother maybe came to bring her home, and she was saying trade, like trade with me. I'm trading with you, like I want my daughter, and so I just kept listening, and I was like, okay, that's great, I do want her to move on. And then the word hail came up. I'm not really sure what hail was referring to. I thought, kind of visualizing what might have been happening, this person was moving on, that maybe there were angels helping, maybe they were singing like hail to, God, hail to the universe. I don't know, maybe not, but, that word came up. And then after that, I just thought, okay, I can see that something is happening here. I can see that things are better. I think this person is finally crossing over. And then I just communicated with my spirit guide and with the other spirits around, because I felt like there were more people around, kind of angelic beings. I just felt that. It just felt very good. And so I said, okay, if you can let me know, is there anything else I need to do? Is this person able to cross over now? Are we, for lack of a better word, are we good now? Is there anything else I need to do? Do I need to close the session out? Are we finished? And so I in my mind, communicated that, and I waited for a little bit and nothing really came up. And so I thought, okay, I'm just gonna put my phone down. I'm gonna just get up, from my seat, go to the bathroom or something, come back and see if anything came up. So I did that. I left for a few minutes, came back to my seat, and this word was up on the screen. Finish. So I thought, okay, great. That's completely validating. I believe this really happened. I believe this spirit actually was able to cross over, because they communicated with me and they told me their story, and maybe that's all they needed, was just someone to listen, and tell their story to. And then they were able to move on, and it was finished. So the word finish came up, and so I thought, okay, and at that point, I went ahead, and closed out the session, and yeah, that is the end of the story. So, it gets a little bit intense there for a little bit, but it ended well, I feel like, and, I understand for those of you who are skeptical of this and don't really believe in it and all that, that's fine. Just, take this as entertainment value, or just as an interesting story that would be fascinating if it were true. But for me, it is true. It did happen. I experienced it. Like I said, you know, I don't really rely on the app. The app helps, but I mostly rely on my own abilities, my own senses, if you will. And so I was able to sense all of this that was going on. And it was amazing because it was almost like a dream come true to me to be able to help someone that died tragically, you know. So, anyway, for those of you who may be wondering, no, I haven't felt any energies or anyone present in that building since this occurred. So that again kind of validates for me that this really did happen, that someone was kind of haunting the building and now they're gone. I haven't felt like I'm being watched or anything, because that's what I felt before. I kind of felt like I was being watched, and it didn't feel bad or malicious, but I definitely could tell someone was there. So anyway, I haven't felt that way since then. Everything's been fine. And yeah, so that is the end of it. If you enjoyed this story, I would appreciate you giving it a thumbs up and letting me know that you'd like me to do this again sometime. Obviously not at work, because there's nothing there anymore that I know of, but you know, other places around Memphis, there's tons of places around here that are haunted. And you know, I would like to do more investigations. You know, I don't always have to help beings cross over. You know, I can also just investigate and just see what's there. If you guys would be interested in that, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. I appreciate you watching. Bye.